You're listening to the Oneofus.net podcast network. It's the Deliberations of Doom.
You're getting better.
Am I?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure that I was.
I think next week we need we need actual theme music so we can eliminate this
That's
part.
a good idea. It's, like a creepy organ music or something. Yeah.
Oh, we can do
A
that.
harpsichord.
I'll bring my harpsichord. I own one.
I was thinking about asking a guy who originally did themes for us to see if he would still come back and do one for this one specifically, because we could use a good creepy theme.
Yeah.
I don't know. If anybody else out there is into writing and performing your own music and you think you'd like to write us a song, we wouldn't say no.
There's going to be some shitty themes coming in.
No guarantees on acceptance.
There you go.
Well, this is the Deliberations of Doom, where we talk about horror movies and horror things. By the way, I had a great idea for a future show. I was over at a friend's house recently who runs the website Rage Select, and he just got himself a PlayStation VR helmet. And I got to sit around for about 2 hours trying out all the VR stuff. And let me tell you, the stuff that's scary is the scariest fucking shit I've ever experienced.
Very cool.
It's terrifying.
This is gaming stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was thinking maybe we do a field trip video episode to his house sometime and have him demo for everybody all the new horror VR games. And
Like silent.
It would
Do they
have
have
to be
any
video
silent?
so we can all look like idiots with that stuff on our face.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we would video that, and he's also got it hooked up so he can record what's on the video game thing, too, so we could edit it all together.
Scary
I'm
video
in.
games.
Yeah.
Frontier.
I'll have to talk to him ahead of time, got to make sure he's downloaded all the demos. Plus, there's a lot of stuff that's just like scary VR visual stuff.
It's the future, though, man. I'm telling you, as far as video games go, VR is the future of it.
Yeah, I mean, and like I wouldn't be surprised if more horror directors are going to start looking into designing games and stuff
That's
for it,
all
because
whole
it is.
other-
I was just playing Batman Arkham, and it scared the fuck out of me, dude.
I hear the Resident Evil
Yeah.
one's really good, too.
Yeah, I haven't played that one yet, but
Which it was creepy without being submerged in that actual world. It was creepy.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine looking down and seeing a zombie crawling at your feet, you know?
And there's a bunch of ones coming out. There's
Dead
one I saw a
Space.
trailer for where you play the monster in like a sort of post-apocalyptic, but people have kind of gone to like knights in armor type thing. And you're like start off as kind of like a little golem baby. You got to hide and run, but you evolve and get bigger as you eat. And they're showing it later on. You've got like flaps so you can glide and you just rip people to shreds. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I
I'm
gotta play
exhausted
this.
just hearing it.
All right, we're not here to talk about video games. We're here to talk about a selection of movies that these guys are very upset at me for picking, I think.
Not all of them.
There was like a good one.
I would argue there were 3 really good ones.
I would argue.
I would say two.
You shall.
The word
say
really
two.
is the only... I mean, there were some good ones, but really good?
Yeah, really good.
I feel as though we did a public service to our listeners.
Well,
Took the bullet
Absolutely.
It's true.
Absolutely.
for them. Right. The life you
This
saved.
is going to be
may
interesting.
your own.
Well, the idea was just sort of the ones I saw people talking about in horror forums. Like, oh, this is the ones we were looking forward to seeing. So that some of this is already out more in a more official sense. Some of this is just on VOD. At least one of these just got a really nice Blu-ray release recently, which is cool. But I thought
on Amazon Prime.
we'd start from the stuff that everybody seemed to like less and work our way forward.
Oh, dear.
And we're going to start with one I was actually very disappointed was not good because there was so much anticipation for the movie XX. I think because it was the first horror anthology with all female directors doing each segment. Okay, so you've got one, The Box by Jovanka Vukovic, who is...
Good job.
Yeah, seriously. Did you practice that?
I actually know her. She and I worked at Fantastic Fest together years ago. We with Devin Faraci had to pick the best horror film award for the year, and we were like, and Devin was just like, no, it's what's the one with all the people ass to mouth?
It's Human Centipede.
Human Centipede, the first one. He's like, no, it's Human Centipede. We're like, okay, but what about these other movies? Like, no, it's Human Centipede. He was like, we finally were like, they were coming over going, you guys have to pick something, and he just wouldn't budge. He wouldn't even have a conversation about it. He'd just be like, no, it's Human Centipede.
That's
And
weird.
finally we're like,
That has been my
fine.
experience with Devin.
Just so we can get the fuck out of here, it's Human Centipede, asshole. Anyway, yeah, so she directs the first one, wrote and directed the first one, The Box. Second one, The Birthday Party, written and directed by Annie Clark, and co-written by Roxanne Benjamin. Don't Fall, written and directed by Roxanne Benjamin, and Her Only Living Son, written and directed by Karen Kusama. Apparently there was going to be somebody else on here who died before they could put their film together.
Whoa.
So
That's the scariest thing about this whole film.
Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about this thing. I mean, this is an anthology, mind you, framed with a sort of very, what's the name of that animator guy who Tool is a big fan of? Or the Brothers Quay is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Like a very Brothers Quay or,
Stop motion,
Yeah, like animation of a walking dollhouse, directed by Sofia Carrillo. That's kind of interesting looking. It doesn't have a plot. It's,
It's fine.
It's very derivative of like Yankmeyer and better stop motion animators.
It's fine.
But we'll go into the box, which I know I just said that I'm friends with Jovanka, but that's not why I thought this was the only really good one on here.
Agreed.
And I really, really did enjoy this one quite a bit, and I know you guys really disagree with me.
I liked the box. That was the only one that I liked.
Yeah, the idea is a little kid's riding on a train with his mom. This old man, kind of a fucked up looking eye in a red box, has got it, and he lets Danny look inside, and the kid kind of looks like weirded out. And the rest of the thing is basically him refusing to eat and getting thinner and thinner, and a panicked mom like, I don't know what to do. And the secret of whatever was in the box starts spreading through the family, as does its effects. Even though this is, and all of these have a sort of, and then what happened ending, like a sort of like, well, it's a short, sometimes I like that, sometimes I don't. This is a case where I actually like the way it ended with a sort of complete ambiguity. Well, I guess we'll never know. I'm just watching
Summers Brothers
Rob
have these.
sit there and he's just nodding like, I feel like
I just want to hear what everybody
it's like I
says.
feel like I'm watching the President's State of Address right now.
Yeah. I just want to hear what everybody thinks.
Well, this is based on a short story by Jack Ketchum, who is a prolific horror author. I actually like this one. I feel like even though I am child-free, I feel like this really plays on those fears that a parent would have. I mean, that's like your primary purpose as a parent, is to make sure that your child is fed. And so it sort of plays on those fears of like, there's nothing you can do. You cannot force your child to eat, literally. And to just watch them like sort of waste away was pretty, I thought, I liked it.
I'm definitely going to be the odd man out. I liked most of these.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, like, I agree. Every single segment in here was pretty much left pretty open-ended, except for the last one. You pretty much got to, we'll get to that one in a minute, though. But I liked it. I thought it was well shot, well acted. I like the ambiguity and the don't give me all the answers and just let me experience. It was like watching. I mean, I guess when I watched it, so many people had already dogged it on the forums or just trashing it. So I was expecting to go in and watch an amateur student film. And I go and I watched a very polished-looking, film, and I got what they were trying to say, and it didn't bug me. And it wasn't like it was 2 hours of my life.
Yeah.
It was 25 minutes, and I enjoyed it. And it didn't bug me. Like
It was
this one.
odd enough of a mystery that it didn't resemble anything I'd seen before, this particular segment.
I thought it was well directed. I thought, it had a really cool kind of dream sequence into some gore that I was like, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, that was nasty.
That was nasty and cool. And I
Reminds me of that Tom Petty music video with the Alice in Wonderland thing.
Yeah.
Don't come around here no more.
I thought it was cool. I mean, the only thing I didn't think it needed was when you hear her voiceover at the end on the train. It's like, I felt like that was hitting that, like, I mean, we know what you're doing on the train, lady. It's this 25-minute movie. I get what happened 18 minutes prior. You don't have to remind me.
Yeah.
That was the only thing my only note was.
Just wait till you see the new Mummy where they constantly remind you of flashbacks they just showed you 20 minutes ago. They're like, oh, remember this? This is relevant.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you got to write to the dumbest common denominator. And,
True.
But
you don't have to.
You won't. A lot of times I do. But passing the mic now to
Summers.
you guys.
Yes? This was... it's a big wind-up. This is going to be disappointing. This was the movie when Chris sent us the list that I was most excited about watching. It sounded the most promising. It was a really great idea for a movie to do an all-female directed horror anthology. So I was pretty pumped. Rob and I had a pretty rough time watching this.
Dude, you guys lit into me about this one. I mean, like, both in text and then when I went to the bar to see you, the first thing you said is, how in the fuck do you make us watch XX?
I mean, I think you're paraphrasing. I don't. Is that what we said? I don't know that it's how could you make us? It was a worthy
That's
idea
how I feel about dark tapes.
No, it was a worthy idea to watch. I just think what I was more shocked by was you seem to enjoy the movie, and I was not a huge fan. I'm not always horror anthologies in general. I don't think work a lot of times. I wasn't a fan of the VHS movies, Creep Show, some of the other ones.
I mean, they all
Body
have,
Bag,
but they all have,
Cat's
except
Eye.
for Body Bags, they all have at least one good segment.
Well, this one doesn't. So this proved the exception. I did think of the movies. I thought the birthday party was the one I liked the most.
That makes sense.
Well, let's
I
talk.
was going to talk about
Let's
that.
talk real quick about
Really?
like that one where you have one of the biggest stars who's actually in this thing, Melanie Linsky, who's not a huge star, but she's recognizable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where she's holding a birthday party for her daughter, but she finds her husband dead in the home office, and then for reasons that completely baffled me, she decided to try and hide the body.
Right.
And
I literally rewound it because I wanted to see, did I miss something?
Yeah.
Yeah, we rewound it like twice.
I was trying to.
I thought it was going to be a thing where it's going to like, oh well, it turns out she had something to do with it, but there's just
The thing is,
She might have.
it's just a wah wah.
But it was a weird. It was a stylized. I thought it had some style to it, and
it looked more Wes Anderson.
Yeah, it had kind of a Wes
Yeah,
Anderson-y
I
thing going
agree.
on. So in that sense, I found that one better than the others, but it wasn't a high bar to clear.
I mean, especially I thought the next one, Don't Fall, which was just so
It
stupid,
was
basic.
incomprehensible. I don't
that was
even.
the one I didn't like.
Bunch of kids out in the teenagers out in the desert who find an old cave painting, and then somebody gets attacked by a creature that you can't really see that's like it, and then she turns into one, and that's it.
It's probably the most straightforward of all of them. It's probably
Yeah.
the most sort of conventionally horror movie. A bunch of people getting picked off in the desert.
But it's also like the worst edited one. Like they did no favors to the person trying to be the Wittigo creature, whatever it is, because like they're holding on wide shots and this thing's trying to move and do like unrealistic actions. It just wind up looking like an old man trying to choke you. And
Weirdly,
it
I
was
found this
kinda
one to be
weird.
the most watchable. 'Cause I had very little. I was just like, okay, cool. It's just people getting off. I don't really have to think
So
about it much.
did you guys see that though? The girl who directed the birthday party one, Annie Clark, is Saint Vincent the musician.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
The birthday party was quirky and fun, but Don't Fall kind of just,
It was just so bland.
Yeah,
We've
it was
seen it
really
before
bland.
so many times.
See what I
better done.
What I liked about it was not a horror at all, except for the sound design. So when you watch it, it's completely
For the birthday party?
Yes.
Oh, the birthday.
There's not a
I was
single
like, what are you
horror
talking
element about it.
I thought we were still talking. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Well, it just didn't come back around.
It's
Right?
more,
And so I thought it was
Yeah.
more
interesting.
of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
weird comedy.
Well, for sure.
Yeah.
But, like, it has these stings that just
It's
fucking
quirky.
hit every time it cuts to the guy. And I'm like, why are you... But I enjoy
It's
it for
if
that.
Wes Anderson made a horror.
It felt
I
like
wish it would have been that.
It
but
felt like it
it's-
would have been a cool sequence in a bigger film.
Yeah.
But by itself, I was kind of like, okay, I
It
just
doesn't.
don't
It's
care.
kind of like a wind up to one joke.
Yeah.
Basically coming.
Which is where they give the actual real alternate title to it at the end, where it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the joke.
It's just weird. Like you're like it's building this moment, and the moment kind of comes, and you're like, oh, that's it. So it's sort of like wound you up, and then that sort of happens, and it's over.
One thing I did like about Don't Fall was, and this really comes from a feminine perspective, was because I'm excited to see horror done by females.
Yes.
And that's a big deal to me, being a female horror writer. And Don't Fall was the only one that wasn't like centered around a child of some sort. And I just feel like maybe women don't need to like push the child thing. Granted, I don't have children, so I can't really relate that much. But
she had her child edit that movie. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
But I mean, like, does it every single segment have to involve a kid? Like, literally.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That's
That's
a
an
very
interesting
good
point.
I feel like it's way too I mean, there's still like, riding the old-fashioned train here.
Right.
Yeah, and then the last one, Her Only Living Son, which is basically Rosemary's Baby, The Becoming, with a mom who's got a son who everybody, despite the fact that he's pretty disobedient, turning 18, doing horrible stuff like tearing off a kid's fingernails, everybody, all the adults are like, no, he's fine. And she's like, what do I do? And it's all sort of like, okay, well, he's becoming something because his dad is the devil.
So
It was just missing that last
when
shot
you did-
from
And
the
this
y'all
was
show.
directed by the
This
same
is directed
one.
by Karin Kasuma,
Yeah,
who
who did
directed
The Invitation.
The Invitation,
Which is
Girl
great.
Fight,
Which is
and
amazing.
Neon Flux, and Invitation
Jennifer's
is one of my
Body.
favorite movies. Jennifer's Body, one of my favorite movies of last year. And I think she's a really talented and pretty sharp filmmaker. And this one was a pretty big disappointment. I don't think it's a bad movie, but it does feel it's not up to her normal standards.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was kind of shocked. I know she's a fan of a lot of 70s and 60s stuff. I could see the Rosemary's Baby influence, and
it's pretty direct.
Yeah.
It's not even an influence.
Okay,
It's,
that's
it's
probably
supposed
it.
to be an.
I mean, she's
official
claimed it.
sequel
She
to-
owned that. Was like, yeah, this is.
Yeah, but I think the opening line of dialogue is from Rosemary's Baby.
yeah. Oh,
I mean,
She
it
talks
felt-
about the two names.
I mean, we said this is the one that doesn't end ambiguously, and maybe it should have. You know,
Yeah.
I felt like it would have been improved that way.
I just of all these movies, and I was really excited to watch this. These are, I think, obviously made by very talented, smart people. It is very clear to me that is what's going on. I've seen their previous work and stuff, but I of all the movies we watched, this one I didn't want to finish at all. Some of the movies bored me, some of them I was less interested in, but I just did not connect with this movie in any way. Like, I was just like, I didn't find any value in my time watching it. And that's not to say probably someone else may have these are very much litmus test movies. I think they, like you said, like, how you feel about them may depend on you. I don't think they're objectively bad in some way, but I didn't connect with them in any way, and I was really disappointed in that.
Also, the connecting segments with just the stop motion stuff was pretty. I didn't understand what it was doing in there. It didn't add anything to the movie in any way.
I thought it was pretty.
I mean, it's
pretty.
It's not bad looking, but it just
It's odd to have a framing device that serves no framing actual purpose.
It's not exactly a Twilight Zone movie.
Interstitials.
You know what I mean? So,
well, especially considering that the big hook is that these are all female directors. I would have thought someone would have found an interesting way to tie these together.
So you're
using
saying
framing
Dan
segments.
Aykroyd should have appeared and said, "You want to see something really shitty?"
yeah, this one just...
I think. I mean, when you watch like The Invitation, it's a real, long, slow burn that hits you really fucking hard at the end. And short form may not be the best, form of storytelling for Kasuma, because she's a very talented filmmaker.
No
obviously.
question.
But she works in TV as well, so I do feel like she does probably understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I didn't hate it.
Well,
I feel like there was a lot of things to, and then you watch and like you look at like, for example, like user ratings. This has a 4.6 on IMDb. The Dark Tapes has a 5.0. So you tell me what took more skill and talent to make.
Well, it might be because the Dark Tapes was advertising like crazy on Facebook. Like there was like a week and a half where
Honestly,
it was like
it's just
every
one of
time
those
I
I think
scroll.
it's that these are not horror films. I think the third one actually is probably the most conventional of a horror film. There's a creature, it picks people off. The last one is kind of about the devil, but like the first one does not even feel to me like a horror film. It's sort of disturbing and weird, but it's not scary. There's not an antagonist in a sort of conventional sense. So honestly, like I feel like when you watch this, if you were with your friends and you had a tub of popcorn, you're waiting to see a horror movie. This is not that
So I
movie.
think I like that first one because it's almost kind of like its ambiguity. It's not as simple as just like, well, what happened? It's almost
And
sort
I
of
feel-
Lynchian.
And
Yeah,
I
but
feel
I-
like
but I
that's
feel like-
mostly Jack Ketchum's writing as
Could be.
opposed to the directing.
See, of all the movie, like of all the stories, that one drove me the most nuts. And I have to.
Well, I think most of the movie is just then going, the kid won't eat.
Yeah, there's a
The kid won't eat.
repetitiveness to the kid won't eat, and then we go ahead and we discuss that the kid won't eat. Then the kid doesn't eat again. Then they go back and we talk about how the kid's not eating, and is someone else not eating. Then that goes on, and then someone else may not eat. This goes on. That's basically the movie, and I think we'll get to this a little bit with Blackcoat's daughter.
I found this so interesting.
I
though.
did too.
Like, I
I
found
did.
it.
No, I didn't. I
That
found
was
it.
definitely my favorite.
Because I've never seen it before. It's like a threatening thing.
It's such a I get it type thing. I was going nuts.
You
I've
found
never
it.
seen it as a threatening
But-
thing. I'm like, oh, he's not eating.
but
Big deal. Then
I-
day 4
I
goes by and
think
you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
We'll get into
Agreed.
more when we get to Blackcoat's daughter, but that's a movie that traffics in ambiguity in a 100 times more effective way for me than this movie.
Oh,
I
I'll
agree.
agree with
this
that.
one feels
100%.
this one feels like there isn't really a there. Like there isn't really the ambiguity doesn't feel to actually have a center. It's nonsense. It's just like arbitrary and it's a shrug. So to me, watching that combined with the fact that it's repetitive, I was out. So I mean, like, I think, like, but
And you liked it more than Russ.
No, I didn't know. Rob really.
I was freaking out.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
Visceral
the reaction to this movie.
Yeah.
And, if we weren't-
Okay, see, that's how I feel about the dark tapes. Like,
That's your favorite one,
I
right, guys?
fucking hate this movie
Yeah.
so much.
She was doing to me
let's
what you
table that
guys.
until we get to the dark
Well,
tape.
let's go to the dark tapes.
Okay.
though.
Oh, we go to the dark
We're
tapes.
Go to the
All
dark
right,
tapes.
great.
Yeah.
I need a porn.
Then I'm
break.
sorry. It was a great.
Yeah.
It's a great
Do
segue.
it. Me too, please.
She
Phil.
was doing to me on the dark tapes the way y'all were doing to me on XX. She
Chris,
was like,
you know what?
fuck you.
I
I
want to make a
hate you
very
so much
public
for this.
apology. We gave you a lot of shit about this assignment. I do feel like you got a lot of texts in the middle of the night as people were watching movies.
I know.
A lot
And
of group texts
Although
that
I
went,
do
that went
feel like a couple
sideways.
times I got cut off. Like I was so romantic. Chris is like, yeah, going to bed. See you guys.
I was actually going to bed. I was having fun.
Never know.
Well, you know.
Cheers.
I always
Cheers.
comfort
Cheers,
myself
audience.
by saying, but you guys like a Ghost of Mars, so clearly you don't know what you're
You know what?
talking
There's after this assignment, there's
I
no
would
way I'll
watch
take
Ghost
shit
to Mars
over
over these.
like all these movies.
Seriously.
every day.
No.
Except for Blackcoat's
No.
daughter, Ghost of
Except
Mars.
for Blackcoat.
Crazy.
Well, I liked Devil's Candy too, but we'll get to that
I
later.
would watch Ghost of Mars over the first two films, definitely not over the
Okay,
next three.
dark tapes.
Well, let's go to the dark tapes. This is
I'll let Chris give the build up before I unleash.
Yeah, this is another anthology film. It's a found footage anthology. Oh God, oh God. It's honestly the only thing about this I liked at all, and that's not to say I really liked it, that had my attention for any point of time was the wraparound segment, To Catch a Demon. And that was kind of a framing segment inside of a framing segment, which was so unnecessary that having a separate outside framing segment
My eye
to the
just
framing
twitched.
segment. But I was like, what the fuck? But there's a point in it where they're trying to like catch a demon on camera or some shit that was cool.
As one does.
Until they get a close-up of it, and then you're like, okay, wait, that looks terrible. Not crazy
Even the
about
shoddy
that
filmmaking couldn't cover that up.
at all. But then you've got The Hunters and the Hunted, which is this couple's in a new home discovering there's like a ghost presence there, and they've sought out ghost hunters to help them, but then things go like smirkingly Ari, like where it was kind of like, oh, come on. I don't want to say the twist, but it's a dumb twist.
Yeah.
And then you have Cam Girls, which almost
Oh,
the
for
less said
God's
about
sakes.
the better. These two girls have a cam sex show, and then they pay a visit to one of their watchers, which is the most pointless of all these segments.
Is that
which
what
is
happened? I
saying
literally
something.
watched like 2 days ago. I don't even remember that was the plot.
Oh my god.
And then there's Amanda's Revenge, which is a girl is saved from being date raped at a party, but then she starts to act very odd afterwards.
even remember that
What a
one.
shocker. Yeah, this is the most forgettable of them. It was just kind of like, okay, whatever. Yeah, this is garbage.
What I love is an anthology movie from the same director 4 times, and then one other director. I'm going to team up with myself 4 times,
Yeah,
and then bring on my boy.
Vincent J.
Homeboy over there.
Guastini and Michael McQuone. Those names are weird. I
Wow,
don't
did
know
like
what's
4
going
of
on.
them.
Yeah, this is no good.
So
This is from a guy who...
It's a makeup guy and a writer guy.
Yeah. So,
Basically.
Yeah. Hey, you did the makeup on Requiem for a Dream, though, so he's
He's
obviously a
really?
good director.
17 years ago.
He's
Right.
got some good makeup movies on it for sure. He's got some good credits.
So I have a question just before we get started on this, because honestly, when we looked at the list of movies that Chris was giving us, this one jumped out at me because it's found footage, and I
You were like, oh,
automatically cringe when it's found footage. And I wanted to ask, is there a successful found footage? I mean, does the genre just not work for you guys, or is there a found footage movie that anyone here really loves?
Yeah.
Blair Witch.
No,
Okay,
I don't go with you
I
on
like
that
Blair
one.
Witch.
I love the first
and
Cloverfield.
I absolutely
So
love Blair
Cloverfield,
Witch. I
Blair
love
Witch.
Cloverfield,
Cloverfield.
Wreck and Wreck 2.
Wreck.
And I'll
and
even
Wreck
say
2.
the third Paranormal Activity, I think, is a pretty
Third
solid
Paranormal
movie.
Activity.
That's taking
Russ?
it a little bit far.
I like that one a lot.
I'm going to go. It's not a movie, but one of my favorite found footage stories is the Cops episode of the X-Files.
Yes.
Nice.
Badass one.
Yeah, that was
really
one of the
great.
first times I'd really seen it used to great effect. But I think those guys, that list is pretty good.
Are we going to have to do
Particularly
like a
the
future
wreck
theme
movies.
of just found footage?
No.
But I will say-
Troll Hunter.
No.
Oh, Troll Hunter!
Troll Hunter.
Hell yeah!
I don't think
I will say this:
Oh,
when
Troll
found
Hunter's
footage is
amazing.
bad, it's really bad.
True. Oh, and the
And
Bay is pretty good too.
I like
And I
today.
think the main thing found footage usually has a problem with is it is constantly trying to justify the person using the camera.
It's a false narrative.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
literally, the story only exists because you're forcing somebody to hold the camera.
Afflicted
and
is
to
pretty
me, it's
good.
like watching a bad Dukes of Hazzard. Like
that we're gonna
they're
be
forcing you to watch
reviewing
this car
soon.
go this way, and then next it's all forced.
And if I have to see another, the camera's on its side now. We dropped
Creep.
the. Oh, now this guy's picked up the
Creep was
camera.
pretty okay.
Creep is pretty good too.
People will do the stupidest shit in found footage because they're forced to, because the narrative doesn't exist with the camera
Apollo
existing.
Nights.
Okay.
So,
Apollo
and to
18.
me,
No.
what's sort of
You didn't
fascinating
like
about
that?
found footage
I like space
is
films.
that what should be probably some of the most realistic performances on film, with no cut, with no, with just a camera trained
Should
on
be
actors.
cinema verite.
Yeah, it should be, and it feels. I always watch the actors; they look so stranded in this genre. They feel fake. They don't sort of know how to react as real people, and they feel like, okay, so, and they always. Everything about their actor tics comes out. They're repeating people's names. They don't know what to do. They look awkward. Even a movie I was really excited about, Diary of the Dead.
Yeah.
You guys have seen that?
Those,
George Romero's
those more
attempt at
recent
the genre.
Romero ones are not so
And-
good.
But he
I
gave it a
didn't- I
shot.
didn't
He had a lot
mind
of
it.
cool ideas, but you can feel him sort of, especially for something like someone as innovative as that, where he made Night of the Living Dead, which was so effective because it felt realistic. And then he has that format, and it just feels so fake.
You see, the new one is going to be Drivers of the Dead, right? Where
I'll
the
watch
idea
anything
is
like
they've
that.
got them where they've taught them how to drive, and now they watch them in a sort of demolition derby type thing.
So kind of like in Land of the Dead, where they were like
Yeah, now
more
they know how to shoot
sentient.
and stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
I actually want to
All right, I'm
watch.
going to keep us on mission.
Okay, Dark
Okay,
Tapes.
so Dark Tapes. Patience, you obviously have.
So this is actually
unresolved feelings.
yeah.
about
This
This is your moment, Patience.
I know.
Please.
I feel like all the hatred that you funneled into XX. This is my moment.
I at least found things about XX where I understood it just didn't.
There
work
was
for me at all.
absolutely nothing about this film I liked. And I watched this probably a month ago. And I couldn't really remember that much about it. And I was going over my notes earlier today, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't write any notes. All I have is like expletives.
Let me see this.
I like
what does it say?
this is fucking it's a bad word that I probably shouldn't use in public. I hate this so much.
This is fucking
have-
This is fucking delete.
Yeah, how did this get made? Exclamation point!
I can tell
Question
you how it
mark!
got
I
made.
just these bitches
Look
aren't
at the
even
font they
attractive for
Yeah.
fuck's sakes.
But I think that was perfect.
That was the
We
Cam
wanted
Girls
to help that
episode.
to sort of. Anyways,
These bitches aren't even attractive for fuck's sakes for the Cam Girls episode.
Yeah, I was a
mean,
little baffled why they didn't even try to get someone who looked like they might have a cam show.
they have. I'm like,
How
this
you
is
make
not
Cam Girls
how.
uninteresting, but they found a way.
Yeah.
This is not how paranormal investigations work. Is one of, and then one of the things that I caught was I love out of place cell phones is one of my notes because it's supposed to take place like 20 years ago, and they're clearly using smartphones,
Wait,
and
is
you're
this a
just
security
like.
piece?
There's like
It jumps back
yeah
and forth.
Oh, right,
flashbacks and
2007
stuff
and-
yeah
yeah,
yeah
okay.
they're clearly using cell phones in
I
like
think
1999 smartphones.
I think by the time you had to think about that stuff,
I
I,
know.
was already totally checked out.
I just hate this movie so much, and I can't remember any of the segments other than the beginning and the end, and that's not a good thing. Go.
What was that one movie you guys made me watch that one time about the guy's friend is like schizophrenic and seeing...
No, they look like people.
Yeah.
Yeah. The same reason why I had issues with that is why I have issues with this. When I'm watching the filmmaking, it's like they just don't give a shit. Like, as a filmmaker watching it, I can tell the refrigerator's off because I turned it off for sound issues, yet they didn't bother to fucking mic anybody, so it sounds like shit anyway. So I turn the fucking refrigerator off. Then you watch, oh, look, there's, catering over there on the side, and there's, you see all this shoddy filmmaking across the board everywhere, and then you see a guy, like, pull out a prop, and it's a Canon XL1. He goes, this is my beta, theta, accelerator, whatever camera to capture go, as a kid on XL1, at least fucking like spray paint that motherfucker black, add some shit to it, and like make an effort.
Amateurs.
It's like a mini DV camera from like 12 years ago.
I can't remember. I watched something on Netflix. It was like a sci-fi movie, and the guy was supposed to have found this alien tech, and it was just a Zoom recorder. Everybody knows what a Zoom recorder looks like.
But to me, it's like I will like support something 100% if you make an effort. Like just have integrity in what you're doing. And I feel like the props sucked. The stories, for the most part, were pretty bland and unoriginal. The makeup sucked. The cinematography non-existent because it's a fucking found footage movie. And why do it? It's a bastardization of the art of cinema. It really is. It's false narrative, false storytelling. Watch reality TV. I mean, if you want to do that.
One of my notes literally says, "This is seriously the stupidest thing I've ever seen."
Wow. But people love it. I mean, I've seen positive reviews across the board.
I've seen positive reviews, and it has a high percentage on Rotten Tomatoes, so I think it's just because not anybody's seen it. I don't know.
Russ?
I didn't really care. I mean, it was honestly, I didn't hate it as much. I respect why you guys hated this movie this much. I understand it. I don't know that I had that kind of reaction to it. I thought it was fine. It was fairly watchable. The narratives in the movie as haphazard as they were, they didn't feel like watching the movies in XX that I just didn't have anything to grasp onto. Whereas these, I'm like, oh, it's this movie. Okay, well, I see where this is going to go. Whatever. I don't know. I guess I didn't hate it as much as you
Russ
guys
was
did.
pretty passive on it.
Yeah.
He was like, I could kind of sit here, like he wasn't moved by it or interested,
Yeah.
but he was kind of fine with it, which is weird for Russ, who hates
everything,
found footage. I when it started, I had my backup. So I mean, like honestly, this had such a low bar to clear. The fact that we kind of made it through it was like amazing to me, but. When it started, actually, first, it started pretty badly, and then there was a moment where they had an idea, and again, Russ and I are, and this will be a continuing theme in the Summer Supposed Review movies, if you have an idea, because I just want to see that you put some thought into something, they had this weird idea about ghosts being extra-dimensional beings. At the very beginning, the guy says they're extra-dimensional beings, they're just jumping back and forth between ours, and if their time frame is different than ours, so if they stood still, it's basically like dream time, so they would need to stand still for like 3 hours as opposed to ours. Well, I at least thought, okay, this is an interesting idea. You could
But they had an XL1! The ultimate device to film them!
I understand that.
I love this.
Look, I get you.
Good movie
It's
choices,
like,
Chris.
here's my weapon to destroy all beings. It's a fucking blender.
Well,
we know what this is.
No, but I get you. Like, the problem with the movie is it bumps in the limits of obviously what the filmmakers are capable of at their level. And, as a person who makes really low budget shit,
You have never done that.
Well, thank you, but I do think I'm going to cut you some slack. That's why you're making a found footage movie. You have a low budget. And there is a thing. Remember, Shyamalan talked about this with his movies and why they don't always work. Is you have a moment of religion in a movie, and it's where all of a sudden you believe in the movie. You're with the movie. You're going with it, and so you'll let stuff slide. You'll let continuity errors slide. You'll let bad ideas slide. This movie is obviously not that movie. But for a moment, I was kind of like, okay, I'm interested. Where's this going? Then it jumps into these narratives. The minute they get into the narrative where it's like a couple and they're in that, it's very paranormal activity, kind of boring, same old stuff.
For 30 minutes
and it
for
is.
a twist.
Right.
So
and
they're
there's
lying
a little
to
bit
us.
of a sort of like, it should be a 5-minute movie twist. And then the cam girls thing is somewhat...
I was optimistic it would get kind of sexy, and it didn't.
I mean, I'm always optimistic. Everything in life is about to get sexy, but it was a little skeezy, and I just it doesn't come together. And then the last one, unfortunately, and you're talking to again a guy who makes low budget short films, just doesn't really pull off its final twist with creatures on screen, and that's unfortunate as well. So yeah, it honestly with this film. If you're a person who likes found footage movie, and I don't know too many horror film fans who are they just like found footage, like they're just going to watch found footage.
I like some found footage movies,
right? But as a
agree
genre, it doesn't sell you. The individual
not by
movie.
itself,
right?
No.
Like you're not.
I'm not
gonna
like
go see...
seeking out a movie because it's found footage,
right?
I'll definitely like to comment on the paranormal investigation aspect of the dark tapes. As a former professional paranormal investigator, I was excited at the beginning, just as you were, because it was a cool concept, and a lot of modern paranormal investigations were incorporating a lot of like quantum theory into our theories, or at least we were back in my day. So when I worked at the the Human Energy Systems Laboratory at University of Arizona, shout out. But that was our thing. Like, we did a lot of quantum physics and a lot of quantum theory, and so that's theory is actually not unheard of about being in like this different plane of existence, or a sped up plane of existence. That's actually a proposed theory that's been contemplated, but not necessarily, agreed upon.
Quick question on that. So if you're in this other plane of existence and you're carrying a camera, you can just set that camera down and the camera leaves your plane of existence and you're still out of that plane of existence?
That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Just making sure that I wasn't the only
Which is why one of my notes say, this is not how paranormal investigations work.
But do you think perhaps if you guys had possessed a Canon XL1 camera, it could have gone more thoroughly?
Organic matter, when touching something electric, can stay with, I don't know.
So the beginning, I was like, oh, something I'm familiar with, something that I can actually agree with, and then it just devolved from there. And then I was like, okay, this is really stupid.
Yeah,
all right, we've spent more time on this movie than it deserves.
Okay.
5 thumbs up.
Let's move on to one that we're going to be on polar opposite ends about, because I actually said at one point online, this is one of my favorite horror movies since The Babadook.
When you sent this movie to me, you were like, what?
Okay, see, now I feel better, because I know your opinions are flawed. Because everyone loves The Babadook.
No,
it's
not
so
everyone.
good.
Yes, you created us.
Actually, more than half of this group does not like the Babadook.
It's like American Gods. Enough critics believe in it. It must be good.
No, I mean, you're the only people I know that don't like The Babadook, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'll wear that mantle proudly. The only thing I like about the Babadook is that it's now become a gay icon, and I think that is awesome. Yes,
I
it has.
did not know
really
that.
Cool.
That's hysterical. This is The House on Pine Street, which is indeed a psychological ghost thriller, or at least that's how it initially seems to be. Written by Aaron Keeling and Austin Keeling. They're not twin brothers, are they?
Don't know.
Not all us twins. Hey, I'll call the twin line and find out.
I thought that was a thing. I thought it was a thing.
We don't all know each other, Chris. Is that what you think?
Well, you should. You should have gatherings.
We met them at the last giant twin convention.
I mean, when one twin dies, does everybody get together and have a big ritual with like chants and stuff?
That's not how it works.
No? They don't like put a cloth over him and
yeah.
slide him into the cavern wall.
Making up shit at this point.
All right, so the story here is Jennifer, played by Emily Goss.
There's a story to this movie?
Josh, let me get through the story. Has gone home reluctantly to her Kansas hometown because she's very pregnant. She's 7 months pregnant. Partially her mom lives there, who she clearly does not get along with very well. Meredith, played by Kathy Barnett. And she's having problems with her husband, Luke, played by Taylor Bottles. They get this new rental house that her mom set up, and things start happening weird that only Jennifer is experiencing, which are more or less traditional ghosty type stuff. You know, doors slamming, windows closing, stuff flying around that starts to accelerate. The fact that she's the only one who's experiencing this starts making, everyone's like, well, it's probably just the pregnancy or any number of things. You're tired, that sort of thing. And I think that what I really liked about this film is that it's very isolating, that this character is thrown into a position. It's not one of those movies where it's like, oh, then, like most ghost movies, there's a point where everybody else realizes this is all real, too. This movie is all about that sense of isolation that I think is probably not uncommon among women who are very pregnant, who are like, I am different than everybody else. I feel very alone. No one understands what I'm going through. And I really, really liked the twist, if you will, which not so much a twist, but an explanation for what's happening that's different from anything I've seen in a ghost film before, and how that plays out. I loved the performances from these people in this movie, and I found it genuinely frightening as hell.
Okay, I'm like 50-50 on this one. The one thing I did like about it is I thought it was an interesting use of psychokinetic activity. You don't really get to see that a lot in films about hauntings, as in like...
Just too.
Usually, with poltergeist activity, it's a young girl who's going through puberty is causing things to happen, and in this case, it's a pregnant woman. So I thought that was kind of cool, little twist on the concept. However, I absolutely hated every single character in this movie. They're like so unlikable, and every single person was like a narcissistic piece of shit, and I just couldn't relate.
They were very flat. They were very
I wanted them all to die, literally.
Well,
in the end.
Can I just jump
Go
on
for
that
it.
right
You're
there?
on it.
You saying you wanted them all to die, never at any point in watching the film did I ever feel there was any sense of danger or death could be a result of anything.
Yeah.
I'm watching a film where I have no idea who the protagonist is, who the antagonist is, what their goals are, what their missions are. I'm watching a movie that literally has set forth no goal for me to follow. So I'm watching a woman whose crock pot lid keeps coming off and you hear footsteps and the door closed. Literally, that's what's happening. It's like, oh no, a door closed. You didn't see the door close? Well, no, I did not. Maybe it was the wind. And then she loses her shit, for 2 hours.
Oh no, it's a closet.
And to me, it's like, I get it. It's that ghost movie setup. And to me, it was like, I didn't feel the explanation for what was causing it justified me watching a movie for, 2 hours. Like, I just didn't feel like there was nothing different to this movie that made me excited about it. I thought it was... The characters were very flat, like that whole, like, hey, I'm the bully, so I'm going to smack the books out of your hand. That's how I play this character. And it was like the mom. Oh, I'm a bitch. Oh, well, I hate my mom. Oh, and every character was so just cliche.
Well, her mom was awful.
Yeah, to the point where she had no dimensions. Bill the Butcher was an awful person, but you got him. And you're like, I want to watch more of this great actor play an awful person. You get people's plights.
Wait, who's Bill the Butcher?
I'm talking about I'm talking about good actors and good
Which
movies.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Right.
It's like a villain who is just an asshole villain, but you get him. You don't have to be just a horrible person and not understand that
Because
person.
I don't think the mom is the villain,
Well,
she's
she's set up to be the villain in the... Yeah.
She's like, how do you like the house I put you in? How do you like this? How do you like everything
How do you
I've
like
given
this
you?
stupid party that you hate?
Once again, I don't think she's the antagonist. I think she's just another
There is no
source
antagonist.
of... No, but there's not...
I agree with
She, it's what is the term? Man versus himself, if you will, here. It's her. It's that sense of isolation. It's the fact that no one understands what she's going
get
through.
it.
And the fact that everybody else
All
is
that
an
may be in the
unlikable
movie,
person.
but it's boring.
I get it. It just didn't do anything for me.
I just like when you watch this film. First off, Russ has this thing when we watch a film like, is there good dialogue? Because he honestly feels like if there isn't a cool line or a cool moment where two people talk together, you probably didn't write a great movie. And one of the things we always talk about also in a film is, and not every film has this, but in most of my favorite movies, there's one moment where two characters talk about the themes of the movie, where they talk about what the movie is
and what's going on,
right,
and how it relates.
And they sort of have this philosophical moment. And they say something about what we sort of learned in the movie. And watching this movie, I just don't feel like that kind of thought or moment is in this movie, and I think it's because I didn't feel like the movie was in the end really about something like that. You're right. There's a theme. There's sort of an idea. There's a metaphor. But the movie in the end wasn't really about anything. And I think part of it comes to what Phil talks about is there isn't really an antagonist in a sort of
There's no
horror
goal to
movie
achieve.
interesting way. And it's sort of like, it feels like a kid's story. And then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens for almost 2 hours. Long 2 hours.
I wish he was on
I
film.
mean,
No, but I mean,
we really got to start doing this on video.
It was really tedious, and I think that the movie is not incompetent. It's not shoddy. I think it's a movie. It's a low budget movie, but intelligent people made it. And I was just
Unlike Dark Tapes.
the ghost knocks. It knocks stuff over. It kind of pushes her around. But there isn't a there. There isn't a set of rules. There isn't something that's going on that really ties together and makes sense. It just feels arbitrary. Like, well, now she's alone, and then she kind of hears something. There's like footsteps downstairs. And you know what else? The shit where in every freaking horror movie, how long you make me watch the character try and convince other characters that something is going on is usually my key to whether or not you made a movie worth watching. And this movie is basically 2 hours 2 hours.
Well, she's constantly explaining what we've just seen.
Yes,
for 2 hours.
Well, we know, telling other people, and then them going.
See, and I know you didn't like her performance. You
know what? I think she's okay. She's not given a performance to do
because she sold it to me because I think this is really
I thought they were
basically.
good
she's
acting.
probably the best actress.
It was definitely good acting.
Unlike most ghost films, like this resembles for a while. This is more of a character piece set in a ghost movie. I mean, it's
now you're losing me even more. If you're going to make a horror movie, make a horror movie. If you're going to make a character piece,
no, come on,
make a character piece.
Come on,
that's not fair.
That's not fair at all.
No, because I don't. I feel like this is one of those things where I don't want to watch somebody Q&A go. It's really a character piece. I'm not really interested in it.
We're laughing. We just saw one of those movies. We're not going to get into that one.
Yeah, totally. I just did another review.
I will say
for
that may be why I'm on the fence and why I liked XX, because it doesn't. I don't subscribe to a horror movie has to have these elements or not, because there's so many things that are horrific. My thing is, and I want to piggyback on what you were saying earlier, and this kind of is one of those things that I've learned through directing films, especially with dialogue, is I feel a lot of directors will just stare at the monitor and be like, oh, great, moving on. I actually close my eyes, because if your ears don't believe it, it's not true.
Yes.
And your eyes will confuse you, and you'll be like, oh, this is great, moving on.
It looks like a real movie.
It looks like like, oh, look, the lighting's great, the camera's great. Just close your eyes and just hear what people were saying. And a lot of the dialogue was very flat for me and very just cliche. And to me, that bugged me, and the no goal of whatever bugged me. But.
What did you think, Russ?
Well, I was going to say I feel like we've already talked about this movie longer than it deserved. But I would say, when we finished the movie and Rob went off about his problems with the movie. I would say this: the movie is very low budget, and it shows.
It's almost a bottle.
Yeah,
you talking about dark tapes?
No, I'm talking.
No. We're not going back to the dark tapes.
I heard very low budget, and it shows.
The limitations of the movie are not related to its budget, and that's something that I want to say. The script of this movie, I think, is terrible, and that is really where my problems with the movie lie. And the other thing I want to say is, to be a horror movie fan is to like a lot of bad movies. To like a lot of movies that other people would say, this movie has terrible acting, it's stupid, the monster looks rubber, why do you watch this crap? Like any of those things, people say that, and you love that movie not only because it's a horror movie unapologetically, but it because of its limitations, because it transcends those limitations, or it leans into those limitations, or whatever. This movie does not do that in any way, and that was my real problem with it. And so I think objectively, if there's a lot of other people who watch this movie and said this movie has a lot of terrible acting in it, and I say that's not my problem with it. Is not the terrible acting. It's the bad scenes and the I would say virtually just non-existent.
It feels like leaning over and nodding at me, like, "Listen, Chris, this is why you're wrong."
Chris doesn't get that.
I'm going to summarize that. You can suck as long as you're entertaining.
Yes, and that's 110% true. Most films you like at all come down to a good story and good acting. Everything else,
you better be.
And I would say
That's
you
true.
don't even necessarily need the greatest acting.
Wow, I feel like the patrol actually agrees on one thing.
No, because I
we
totally disagree.
It's almost as though you forgot Chris was
I
over
think
there.
this is one of the best ghost movies I've seen in a long time.
There was no
ghost.
What ghost?
So decide.
But it is a ghost movie.
It's psychokinetic activity.
I feel like the main character right now. I'm trying to make my books fly off the shelves and kill you guys with my mind.
You know what? Chops for the metaphor.
Yeah, good job.
All right, for
good
sake of
job.
time, we got to move on to the next one, which is another one of those movies that I really love. This is The Devil's Candy. I saw this back at Fantastic Fest, watched it twice since then. And one of the things I described this as to people who were asking me, so what was it like? I was like, every horror movie that has a heavy metal theme is so fucking tongue-in-cheek. You're almost like, do you guys even like heavy metal?
Deathgasm.
Deathgasm is flat-out splat-stick comedy. But, you think of the original Trick or Treat. You remember that one?
Oh, hell yeah.
Or the second Slumber Party Massacre. With
Black Roses.
Black Roses. They're very tongue-in-cheek. Devil's Candy is the first heavy metal horror movie that genuinely likes heavy metal music. That is like, our main character, the, I think, incredibly affable and underrated Ethan Embry, is playing a good dad. And he's a heavy metalhead. He's a painter who paints kind of disturbing stuff if he had his choice, but he's having to take like butterfly paintings for hotels because they need to pay the bills. His wife is a lovely person who he gets along with great, Shiri Appleby,
yes.
But she doesn't really get the whole heavy metal thing. But he does share that with his teenage daughter, and the two of them are just inseparable. They are best friends. But when they move into a new house, something starts happening to him. Like he's hearing something and he starts going into these trances and painting and really fucking disturbing stuff. I would totally buy that big painting.
Yeah.
It's so fucking cool. And meanwhile, you've got Pruitt Taylor Vince, who I'll always remember from Jacob's Ladder being the guy with the shaky eyes.
I was thinking
guy.
Identity.
Oh, Identity, yeah. Who is been released from the mental hospital, and there's been killings in his past, and now he's trying to head back to his childhood home, which is this house they moved into, and he's got something going on.
He's got Kurt Hammond's guitar that he fucking...
I know, right?
Yeah, Flying V.
First of all, I just want to shout out to Ethan Embry, who I've loved since Freaky Links. I don't know if you guys remember Freaky Links.
Yeah,
sure do.
But
Was that before Can't Hardly Wait?
It was after.
It was a short-lived. I think there was only like a 2-season television show.
And Can't Hardly Wait.
Was it only one season?
Yeah, it was
one
originally...
season.
They told the Blair Witch guys, let's make a TV show, and they had it, and it was called Fearsome. And then I think those guys, they wanted to do something a little more radical, and it was Fox in the late 90s, so they pulled back and made it a little bit more of a conventional TV, like more of an X-Files TV show.
Rob's
he was the lead in Can't Hardly Wait, which is the only good John Hughes style film that's not by John Hughes.
Can't Hardly Wait.
Yeah, it was only one 2000.
Yeah, I mean, he was also in another one that was trying to do it that's not as good, which is Empire Records, which is okay.
I've never heard of it.
It's still good.
Great
sound.
But then, listeners, we like Empire Records.
So I absolutely...
Recently, he was in Cheap Thrills, which to me was one of the best midnight movie of the year
Frankie
came
and
out.
Johnny. That's
Frankie
a
and
Netflix
Johnny.
show.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
So anyway, I love Ethan Embry. Just want to say that. So it's good to see him looking good. And
I thought he was going bald, though, and he had like a full head of hair.
I don't know. There's these things.
Whatever he wanted to do, he looks great. I think he probably has hair extensions.
Yeah, he had to have long hair in this to be a metalhead. So, he's probably had a long
okay, so
It looks like he's been drinking water and hitting the gym.
This is actually in my notes. Ethan Embry needs to wash his hair. Seriously, everyone needs to wash their hair because everyone's hair was like so, I don't know.
If you take nothing else from this podcast,
then wash your hair.
Wash your hair.
But I loved the metal soundtrack. That was one of the things that really stood out to me, being in old school.
I was wondering, watching it, I'm going, how in the fuck did they get the rights for old Metallica songs for this? Because Metallica famously does not give out the rights to their songs. They showed it to the band, and the band was like, you can just have them. Seriously, we want you to use our songs for it. Awesome. So same thing with Slayer, who was like, normally you can't get those rights, and they were like, yeah, absolutely, we love this movie.
It was good. I love the soundtrack. But otherwise, I thought it was a solid performance overall. I liked the story, even though I wish it would have been a little more clarified. I thought that it was a little muddled. I wasn't really sure. Well, the whole thing with Ray, I mean, it just the character Ray. It went back and forth for me. I was like, okay, he's this guy, but wait, now I don't understand. it was just kind of muddled. It was muddled.
I thought that too. I totally agree.
And I reread the wiki this morning, and I still was like, still not getting it all the way.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I didn't find any of it muddled, and I liked every aspect. And in all honesty, I've never been like a huge Ethan Embry fan, but I was like, man, he had so much charisma. Like, I gave a shit about him and his family.
You just liked him right off the bat.
Like he was so likable, and I
think the entire cast is incredibly likable.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing in movies where your family's at risk of dying. Like, having that family that you actually give a fuck about. Where, like, because sometimes you have, like, the asshole dad who cheats on the mom or whatever, and then you kind of have all these different storylines. It's almost just about a family and a dad trying to do his best to, like, keep things moving forward.
Which is the best part of the movie.
Yeah,
that was the best part of the movie.
Which is 90% of the movie.
The thing with the other guy, you're just like...
Yeah, it didn't confuse me at all.
There's something evil in the house.
I don't want to get too deep into spoilers.
I hate to agree with the Summers brothers.
How spoilerish we want to get on this?
Not too spoilerish.
Okay, well then we'll have to talk after. But
be as ambiguous as XX.
Okay, so I would. You mean like poorly? But I think that I'm with you. I did not understand the connection and the thing that was kind of going on. It doesn't really, and I think this would probably be, I don't want to jump ahead. I'm going to let Phil finish his thoughts, and I'll jump into mine. So,
No, to me, it was obviously something that had to do with the house in that area that was affecting them. Because, I mean, it was very clearly tied to what's happening to, what's his name, Ray Smiley. Is that his name, Ray Smiley?
Yeah.
Ray Smiley, and then obviously it's happening to Ethan Embry after that. So, I really liked it. It was all shot around here in the Austin area.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's funny because I was watching it, and my buddy, a guy named Orion, is one of the police officers. I go, oh shit, look, you're in a movie. And I always find it funny when you know somebody.
Right, and that's where we got called out on Facebook or something like
Oh,
that.
I just want to say real quick that, to sort of defend myself, that I'm okay with ambiguity. I'm okay with ambiguous endings, but this was just way too ambiguous.
Squishy.
Yeah,
like it feels like. And okay, so to your point, and I felt this as well watching it. In a film like this, generally, it's either something weird is going on with Ethan Embry, and he's sort of the antagonist, and something is happening with him, which is going on in the movie. He's sort of experiencing sort of something paranormal or something sort of satanic, and then, or there's an outside antagonist, which is the Prue Taylor Vince character. There's someone who's sort of attacking the family. In this movie, there's both.
Well, you know,
and it's
but he's
obviously
having premonitions,
right? But it's connected.
Yeah,
but then it sort of doesn't really come to much.
But is he having premonitions or is he possessed?
I looked at this in
is he painting
a weird sort of way, like the Amityville Horror. You know what I mean? Where it's like a good man.
But I feel like you're right.
But there was a previous killer who
I understand what you're saying. Like,
wasn't able to.
That's actually a really
that is what is
good.
happening in the film.
That's a really
but
good.
as far as like logically or a consistent system that the film is setting up, none of that's in there. And I feel like he's sort of doing this weird shit. Then also there's a person attacking the family. That's all in there. But why it's happening, what's going on is sort of just, it's like a shrug. It's like, okay, that's what's going on. There isn't a reason or an objective or a point to it.
You're so literal, Rob.
Well, no, but if you're gonna, it's a story.
Yeah.
So I feel like it should. As a person who is okay with ambiguity, again, you have to... like, when I watch something like a David Lynch movie, there's a shitload of ambiguity.
Well,
but you feel...
It's all in a dream world
but
with
yes,
David Lynch.
But you feel a dream logic.
Yeah.
You feel that things, while... It's even in something like The Ring, which even the American remake, I remember Gore Verbinski specifically saying, Japanese cinema is comfortable with dream logic. Americans are not as comfortable with it, but he tried to work that in there. And when you watch The Ring, it doesn't all make sense. But you sort of buy that there's a system that makes sense. With this film, doesn't. It feels like, well, I want to have him sort of be possessed, but I also want to have this outside antagonist. It's the same, but there's like a weird devil.
That being said, I still think it's a good film, though.
Yeah, I don't get the
liked
confusion
it.
there. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but what is it?
Think of it as
why is it attacking him? But why isn't he killing them with the guitar as well?
Because it's a difference, like with the Amityville Horror.
There's only one guitar.
Vincent whatever his name is.
Taylor Vince?
No, from the original Amityville Horror. That character who killed Ronald DeFeo, who killed his family from the force in the house. He is the Pruitt Taylor Vince, whereas Ethan Embry is the I forget the name of the character.
But
who
I don't
came
see the
into
point in giving him the premonitions. Then it doesn't go
because
anywhere.
it's the house that affects
But why?
people.
But okay, so it's the house.
But
then you also have this guy.
You never know in the Amityville Horror
saying,
either.
It's all these. That's
you
a terrible
definitely-
movie.
No, it's not.
But honestly, that's not good. That doesn't work for me. Like watching the film on its own merits. It doesn't come together in the same way it doesn't come together.
I don't
for Patience.
really want a like name. I like a nameless evil to be nameless.
It feels arbitrary.
Sometimes.
It feels like I would like this scene where he paints weird shit, and I would also like this scene where the guy comes to the door. So I want to have both of them. It's like a movie is choices.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you leave in, and it's more importantly what you leave out. Because a real director makes choices about what the movie isn't. And I feel like this movie, he wanted both. So to me, the movie's less effective.
I think it's more effective because of that.
I mean, it just works for you differently.
By the way, this is Sean Byrne who did The Lovely Ones.
Right.
It was another big
Yeah,
festival.
that was-
smash.
yeah.
And
horror
he is
film.
a very capable director. So of all the films besides Blackcoat's Daughter, this film, I think that while I have a lot of problems with it, I don't think it's particularly scary. I knew like the minute it started with Prue Taylor Vince, I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't going to be like a scary. It's not really scary in the way that I think Blackcoat's daughter is a little unnerving or whatever for me, or whatever, or something like The Shining. This film's not scary to me. It's like a horror film, but were you guys scared? Like ever?
No, I'm never scared.
This film? Devil's Candy?
I felt nervous.
I'm not scared.
I watched it.
No, I mean, you don't want people in this movie to get hurt because you care about them. But is it a scary movie?
No.
Not. Well, I mean, it depends on what you define
No,
as
is it scary? That's a yes or no question.
I have a high resistance.
Look, you like
Yeah,
film.
seriously,
That's fine.
I
Like
honestly,
film. Is
I
it
don't
scary?
remember the last time I was scared.
No, I agree that
Russ.
it does not have to be scary to be a horror movie.
Yeah.
But
To be a good horror
I'm
movie.
just
It was
saying
unnerving
it's
for
not
sure.
a scary movie.
was
It doesn't mean it's not a horror movie. It doesn't mean it's not an It's effective obviously, yeah, movie. it deals It with just that. means it wasn't a particularly
But
scary
I guess, like, not to like go too much into it, but like you look at like Pruitt Taylor Vince's character, he obviously has like a mental disorder, and the devil could prey on him so much easier than Ethan Embry, who just moved into this house. It made total sense to me that he killed somebody years ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, but it doesn't make.
I mean, never.
All right, whatever.
I mean, but it doesn't. But that's the thing is, it
Okay.
doesn't have to. It's the devil. He's like undefined.
Now you're just making it. I feel like that's a little bit of an excuse.
No, it's
Because
not
I
at
watched
all.
The Exorcist and she possesses Reagan.
Have you ever
I
read
get
a
it.
Lovecraft novel?
Yes,
They never
but that's a
define
different
what
thing.
these things
but that's
are.
not defining.
Clearly, we are very passionate.
Russ,
Go ahead, Russ.
So I just wanted to. First thing I wanted to say was about. I did like the movie. I didn't love the movie. I wish the movie. I will say this about the film. I didn't find it a particularly ambitious film in terms of theme or idea, which is not a knock. Or it's just not a knock necessarily on the movie, but I wish it had been up to a little bit more. I was going to ask you guys about the metal thing. It was the metal thing was in there. It was very clear that the filmmakers are big metal fans. But I didn't know that it really added much to the movie, other than being something
color.
color to the characters. And I was surprised because I'd read about the movie and I thought it would have more to do with heavy metal music. Rather, it was just he was a heavy metal fan, so was his daughter. That was kind of in the movie.
I feel like that actually defined the relationship between him and his daughter, and sort of how the daughter felt a little like she was an outcast, and how she didn't really belong in this new town, and how she was having trouble fitting.
But what does that have to do with heavy metal music?
All
What does
that-
that?
Well, because I mean, when you're a young lady, such as I was once upon a time, like you define yourself by the music that you listen to, and that was her bond that she had with her dad. And she was very clearly is a goth-like character in a very small town. So in that case,
But let me
I feel
just say,
like the
that's
metal
all
was
in the
very
movie.
important.
But what is it? But other than that, I just feel like it doesn't have anything to do.
I'll
with
tell
the
you,
movie.
It was badass.
Because to some extent it changes your expectations, because you go into this with this guy and this girl listening to all this dark, heavy music about Satan and blackness, and you totally expect this film to go a certain way because of that with those characters, and it
I don't feel like it's a
refuses to
fake
do
out,
that.
But see, to me,
But it's
Okay,
one
I
of
see
the
where you're coming
multiple
from.
colors that
I just
adds.
think like
I got a
like
statement.
All right, Phil.
It's more profound than that to me, because the heavy metal music could have saved everyone's fucking life, but they wouldn't let Pruitt Taylor Vince play the guitar to drown out the devil's voice.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very profound.
It is.
Like, I think so, because like, think about for how long that was the devil's music. Oh, he listens to that hard rock and roll, but yet he's playing this music so he doesn't have to hear the devil.
It's a
Not-
thematic
it's a very
defense
interesting-
of heavy metal.
Not to mention
I don't know. I
death
think
by
you could
guitar.
I think you could take that out of the movie, and the movie really.
I don't agree at all.
I actually, I'm going to agree with that as well.
I would call it one of the more like definitive themes.
I mean, you know
of the
what?
film.
The things that you guys were talking about with heavy metal music and being disappointed in movies that particularly horror movies that touched on metal. I felt that this was in. I mean, I think it was obvious that the director or the filmmakers were a fan of heavy metal, but I just don't know that it added much to the genre. Even something as I don't want to throw a bomb into the mix, but even something as bad as
But I will.
What was the Rob Zombie, the Lords of Salem? That,
Oh, God,
I
that
know it's.
fucking
I don't
movie
love the
sucked.
movie. We can get a whole other thing about Rob Zombie, but what I want to say is that the metal aspect to it, the musical aspect to it, did have something to do with the movie. I felt in a way it was more organic to it than this one was. But that's just me. I did want to say I liked Sherry Appleby.
Yes.
It was great to see her, and I did think Embry, her, and the daughter, they felt like a real family. You rooted for them, so I want to echo you guys.
Shout out to her on that show Unreal, that by all means I should hate, because it's about a reality show, but it's a really good show and she's great on it.
I totally
the
agree with you.
performances in this film are aces.
Yeah,
they're great.
So I give it on that. I wanted to mention something about Ethan Embry is a painter, and he's interested in showing or being affiliated with, I guess, this art gallery or this art dealer. Yeah. And it was a very strange part of the movie, and I wasn't quite sure. I wanted to get you guys' opinion on it because I wasn't quite sure what to make of it. The name of the art gallery is obviously something it's tied into demonology or something, and so that seemed to be part of it. There is I will lob this criticism at the movie. The receptionist who answers the call that Ethan Embry makes is dressed in a almost cartoonish devil version. She's got the super red and the eye makeup. It honestly, it looks like she's going to a Halloween party. And it was very on the nose. And I wasn't. I wasn't sure what to take of that because it did seem that there was an implication, and maybe you guys can illuminate me on your thoughts on it. There was an implication that Embry's ambition as a painter, and trying to be a famous painter, I guess, was something that was taking him away from the family. That there was an idea that him being part of this gallery or furthering that career would be a deal with the devil.
Yes.
And I'm not sure how to take that, because if that is the case, if there is an idea that there is a metaphor within this movie, because I was looking at his ambition and his art career as an organizing principle that was taking him away from his family and thus putting his family in jeopardy.
I think it's more literal than that. I don't think it's a metaphor. I think it was set up to think that maybe Belial, the art dealer, and his whole setup were in some ways aware of what the house was, and they were intentionally trying to make a good man turn to darkness.
That is weird, wild stuff. I did not know that. So that's interesting. So you felt that was it was.
I did not get that.
I didn't pick up on.
I didn't get that at all.
I picked up on your read. Actually, afterwards,
just have another drink from this very famous bottle of scotch while your daughter's out there being kidnapped by this man.
It's a little. So wait, are you saying that you thought it was literal or metaphorical?
I thought it was very literal.
So it was very literal. Yeah. They have some sort of tie to the demonic forces.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or he actually is the devil himself.
Yeah.
I just want to say that it seems like a bad move to dress like a devil person.
Well, the girl, she just works for the devil. The guy himself who shows up was the devil.
And I thought she was really creepy when he presented his new painting to her. She kind of had this weird look on her face, but I just felt I totally did not pick up on that at all.
But was it entertaining?
Yes.
All right. Well, we do have to move on for the sake of time.
We do?
Yes, to our final film, which is I think the one that we all agree on the most, which is The Blackcoat's Daughter.
Hated it. I loved it.
This is by Anthony Perkins' son, Oz Perkins, his directorial debut, which is kind of cool.
He wrote and directed it.
Yes, he did, and stars Emma Roberts, who's becoming kind of she clearly likes horror.
Yeah.
She's been in.
She likes intelligent horror.
Well, have you seen Scream Queens?
Oh, that's called a paycheck, my friend. That's called a fat paycheck.
Just saying. This is the most ambient of any of the films we're watching. Sure. It's very atmospheric, and I think, oddly, more casual horror fans or people we see on the forums like, man, what are you talking about? I love the dark tapes. They're going to hate this.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to hate it. Because this is an art film more than it's even a horror film.
Not unlike The Witch, I thought. With the, it's very, it's definitely.
It's what?
Ambient.
I would agree.
But somebody else, I've been telling the story in all of these. Somebody else take this one. So that's Rob's
You spoke first.
Spoiler alert, there's no Blackcoat's daughter.
I have no clue what that means.
Really quick. Blackcoat is it's a derogatory term for a preacher. So it's not a good way to call someone who is, a reverend or whatever.
I would take that derogatory comment any day as opposed to the other ones.
So that's what a Blackcoat is.
I have to say that it's a terrible name for a movie.
Yeah,
they should have stuck with February.
February was the original name.
It's kind of unfortunate that someone picked out this name.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay, Rob.
I'm trying to think of a quick way to summarize this. Basically, this is it's a period piece. Is it a period?
It is and it isn't.
Okay. So this is it's kind of hard to. I'm trying to nail down just the plot, which is it's about a few girls at a school, or boarding school, and a weekend where their parents are supposed to show up, and one of the girls is beginning to have sort of strange premonitions that her parents are not going to come for sinister reasons or upsetting reasons, and then another girl who is possibly pregnant from sort of getting in, getting into trouble. Yeah.
Or when a man and a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's Emma Roberts' character is another girl who is on her own, sort of hitchhiking, and meets a family who is on the same road. I don't really want to say too much.
Yeah, you kind of got to stop there.
Yeah, I don't
because
really want
to. Like even me saying it's kind of in two time periods.
Yeah,
it's
a really. I mean, this movie I thought was, of all the movies, was like, I mean, this is a far more of a next level movie than the other movies we sort of reviewed.
I think Kiernan Shipka, who I knew originally as playing John Hamm's daughter on Mad Men for several seasons, who's great on that
Both
show.
the actresses
She's
are
the blonde, the youngest.
She's like the main
And then the other girl
at
from
the
Sing Street.
school.
I thought it was a girl from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, the girl.
Yeah, Lucy Boynton from Sing Street.
She's from Sing Street.
Yeah,
performances in this film
are
all
top-notch.
around
Yeah.
are stellar.
Fantastic.
I mean, they are. Yeah, this is sort of probably the most high budget, high-minded film of all the ones we
bugs me the most that we're not going to be able to discuss on this, because it would be a flat-out spoiler to discuss the end, is the way we even came to like a total disagreement about what the end meant.
Yeah, Chris was. We were texting in the middle of the night about the ending, and his interpretation of the ending and my interpretation of the ending were very different. Although his ending has just as much legitimacy as mine.
Yeah, I
think
agree
it's
they
the
were
movies-
both valid.
This is a film that
interpretations.
traffics in ambiguity, but at the same time rewards your investigation into its mysteries.
There's something dark going on at the school.
I mean, I feel like you can kind of say, I mean, it is a possession story.
Yes.
Russ and
You
I
know,
debate
like
a
a
lot of
school.
stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a nice take on a school
First off,
possession.
it
It
either
is a beautiful looking film.
for
This
sure.
is a really, I think I told Chris this the other night. Osgood Perkins had a serious vision for this movie, and he made it. And I don't think that other people would have made the same movie, and that alone makes this a really strong directorial film. I mean, like, I think, like, of all the movies we watched, he had a vision and he made it. And it's a cool vision.
Normally, I wouldn't pay attention to such things. That's your guys' job,
Yeah.
Phil and the Summers Brothers. But the score that was like kind of like this record just skipping. I found that to be one of the most creepy and prolific things of this whole entire film. It just set up the tone.
I watched this film on my iPhone on a plane, and
Oh, wow.
I was sucked in. Like, I was genuinely unnerved, unsure. Like, I was totally pulled into the.
But are you
wintry-
scared of flying?
Yes.
Isn't everyone to a little bit?
But you know what I have to say? Like, there was no, like, doors closing and bumps going on and
Crock
stupid
pots moving.
shit like this. You have a character going like, where's somebody at? Walks around an empty school, walks downstairs, peeks in a doorway and just
Of
sees
this
somebody
furnace,
kind of praying
yeah.
next to a furnace, and it's the scariest shit I've ever seen. And nothing's happened. There's no creepy noise.
This
You
is
just
a film that,
see this.
like great horror films, traffics more in dread than like jump scares or something like
Yeah.
that. It's all atmospheric.
It's very atmospheric.
I
yes.
just, you know what it really reminded me of, especially the sort of dialogue and the performances at the very beginning reminded me of The Shining more than probably any other movie. At the beginning of The Shining, where Jack Nicholson's character goes in and talks to the hotel owner, they're sort of like, they're speaking in some ways very realistically, but it feels weird. It feels
Very,
off.
like-
And every conversation in this film feels off. It feels
Agreed.
weird. It feels like there's something
it
else
feels
going
like
That's
on.
a
we're
really
coming
good
in like 10 minutes
observation.
after.
Right, and there's an implied,
Yeah.
like, sort of scary thing that lies underneath what people
And these
have to
characters
say.
all actually, there's even a reason for that is in both stories that we're seeing going on here. The one with Kiernan Shipka as the primary character and the one with Emma Roberts as the primary character. There's a slowly being defined distance in where these characters are coming from. You know, between Kiernan Shipka and what's her name, Lucy Boynton. They're very different people. They've never really met before this, and it's
Right.
the end of the semester, and now they're kind of forced together, and it doesn't seem like they'd really be friends. there's an awkwardness. Plus, Kieran Shipka's starting to act kind of strange. And then with Emma Roberts being thrown into this car with being picked up by this kindly father played by James Remar. Always nice.
You never know where they're coming from.
Yeah. I think that was.
I had a lot of ideas where that was going.
I actually disagree. I totally saw. I thought it was very predictable. To be honest,
there was a
we
point.
Can't say anything.
There's a point I figured it out well before they did, but it took me a while.
But it didn't take away from the movie for me. I still
Lauren
thought
Holly
it was beautifully acted,
right.
and I still thought that
there is a structure to this film that is unexpected, and I thought genuinely original. I did not know. I was like, oh wow, okay. So even if you see it coming. Just the fact that that's the structure of the film
it doesn't
is
suck.
kind of impressive.
But I will say, even if you see it coming, you probably have 5 other scenarios in your head that it could be one of 5 things that's going to happen.
Right.
So
that's what great ambiguity is.
And to me, it's like the whole Eureka! I knew it was happening because I had 5 other storylines too. Ooh, what if that happened? Ooh, what if that happened? And so there's a lot of different routes you can go with because you do kind of get where it could go, but you also have 5 different directions it could go from that point.
And I thought the ending was perfect.
Yeah.
Did you want to?
No, I was just going to say I thought any of the visuals, particularly the big payoff moments, the scary moments, never disappointing. Just stuck in my head. Loved them. I love this movie. I'm really glad we watched it. It was worth suffering. I don't know if it was worth suffering.
Through XX.
But this movie,
I liked XX.
Yeah. Again, you know what? If you don't have a lot of patience for horror movies, particularly ones with a lot of ambiguity, or that tend a little bit.
If you don't like intelligent movies, don't watch this.
But I mean, if you're a person, you go in, you want the gore, you want the scares.
It's not that kind of movie.
That's not that
kind of movie.
It's much more like The Invitation. Speaking of
Yeah.
cinema, it's a slow burn. It's actually far more about the atmosphere and the journey.
It's not
I don't
even
know
as-
that it's even the most satisfying ending. But I liked watching this film.
Well, the
experiencing
ending
it.
is a big question mark that is not ambiguous in the sense of you have no idea what happened or what was the cause. It's more like there's only 2 answers, and it's one of them, and it's up to the audience to decide which one.
What kind of a heart do you have? Is it a good heart or a dark heart? Honestly, I think that Blackcoat's Daughter is probably going to end up being our best of 2017 list.
I would agree with
Maybe.
that. I just of
There's a
all
lot
the
of
films I've seen
2017
recently,
left.
There is a lot of 2017 left, but so far this is definitely the best movie I've
this
seen.
is a movie
besides
that-
Get Out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought about this movie a lot after we were done with it, and not just because of the show, but because I thought about it. It stayed with me.
Yeah, he's texting me at 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
Going
I was.
dude.
I did. I thought about this movie, and I was very pleased that we watched it. I think it's. You know what else? A slight bit of warning. This is a very explicitly violent film. I did not expect that because so much of the film is moody and atmospheric, but.
When the violence comes and
it's not, they do not
fantastic.
cut away, which I totally expected the camera just pan.
It's startling.
Until, they just stay on it, and it's not easy to watch. So,
Well,
yeah,
for you.
It's very well shot.
she's like, oh, time to get Mr. Buzzy out.
This was definitely the best one of the bunch.
yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't just. I mean, look at what we had to compare it to.
Because I think Russ and I were on the way over here discussing this. We would not recommend this movie to just any horror fan. I think if you're a person who wants to watch something scary and something jumps out and it was fun or whatever and we're just eating popcorn.
Yeah, this isn't a go to have
I
fun.
wouldn't. No, this is more. I mean, honestly, I think this is a film that if you're a person who likes more sort of arty, sort of more intellectual fare or something, maybe if you're a Kubrick fan or something like that. Even
those are only my friends.
Okay,
I wouldn't.
There you go.
I would only recommend this
to your
movie.
friends, but
I would
your
only
audience
recommend
may not
this.
be that way. So, but I do think it is something to prepare for. It's not maybe the fastest paced film, but it's not slow. It's not boring. It's constantly fascinating.
You definitely have to be a fan to appreciate this film. I think.
To some degree. I mean, there's definitely art horror films like this one that don't
entertaining
depend on you
too.
being an horror
it's not
fan to
boring.
appreciate.
It's not. This movie is not home.
But
And the
you
payoff
compare it to
is
The
good- is
Invitation,
there.
and I wouldn't agree only because that's such a dialogue-heavy film, and this is not. There's long sequences
So what
of
would you compare this
cinematography.
to?
I don't know precisely.
That's what I'm saying. This is a very specific.
Yeah, but I will say this:
The Witch.
it is a horror movie.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
The Witch.
It is a horror movie,
except not
Yeah.
that kind of
I-
period.
This is a horror movie. I totally
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah, agreed. All right.
I have to ask,
Oh,
just
yeah.
because we brought up on the other of The Void. Was it
Sure.
a low budget horror film?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think like if you of these movies, I would say Blackcoat's Daughter and The Void.
I would say Blackcoat's Daughter and Devil's Candy.
Devil's Candy.
I didn't
Devil's
like The
Candy's
Void.
good. It's a solid flick.
You guys already know my answers. You're just going to
House
yell
on
at me when I
Pine
say
Street.
mine. I think those last three we covered are all great movies. I love all three of them.
Wait, which one was the other one?
House on Pine.
House on Pine Street. And Devil's Candy.
Okay, just making sure it wasn't Dark Tapes.
No! Man, this guy has really got it in for the
Okay.
dark tapes over
That thing
here.
with the XL1, he's out.
Oh, done. Well, you lied to me in the first 5 minutes.
I hated it so much.
I just like saying dark tapes. I think I walked around the house going dark.
Dark tapes.
The
okay,
dark
so-
tapes.
Dark
And it's
tapes.
actually a good name for a movie.
The dark tapes.
Yeah, it is. I like
You're a
that.
big font guy. What do you think of the font?
Especially for
Oh my god, the Helvetica font.
especially for found footage.
It's the scariest thing in
But
the
you
movie.
know what? I got what they were going for, so I was probably more forgiving than you were. I think you were just like, "What the fuck, man?"
It's such bad font.
So what should we say? If you have a great theme song, you should send it to us.
Yes,
Yes,
you want
we
to
need
write
a
us
theme song.
Otherwise, I'm going to make my own because
Something
I can't
spooky.
I can't let Chris do
with the
intro.
harpsichord.
I'm going to keep doing it
I was
going to
say he's going to do it even though we have a theme song. It's not going to
No,
stop
I won't
him.
do it if we have a theme song. How about
Fair
that?
enough.
So if you really hate it, guys, carry up.
That was always my goal.
Save yourself. Save yourself.
And what's our tagline? Keep screaming? Is
Yeah,
that
let's
what it
keep
is?
screaming, I think.
That's a good one.
Somebody else
like
can
it.
say it now this time.
All right. Keep screaming.
Ah!
Oneofus.net has been your one-stop shop for all things geek for years. But there's a side to them many of you have never heard. The subscription side. Subscribe and listen to great podcasts like The Breakfast Pub, The Original Gentleman, and the Watch a Movie With Us series. Head on over to oneofus.net and don't forget your towel.